so anyways, he recommended Meyer Galligan, contacted Steve Meyer, and of course he referred me over to Dan, being the guy in the M&A area. Had a good discussion with him. He seemed like a regular guy, which is not something I think you find a lot of times in the legal business. And so then we went to our tax accountants, Michael Radke at ShoreTech, and we asked him his recommendation, and said we had talked to Dan Galligan, and he said, well, he's worked with Dan. Dan is one of the guys he'd recommend, because an optimizer is going to check every attorney in the area and then check the absolute best one based on the information you have. A satisfier says, I need someone who can do this kind of job for me. Once I find that person, I stop looking. And Dan was, with the connections he had at ShoreTech and my neighbor, said, this is the guy. So we engaged with him.
But there's a lot more involved in just getting a multiple, and there's all the documents to go through. It's a lot of legalese in these documents. We wanted to make sure that we were protecting ourselves and had somebody that had both the experience and the understanding of going through those documents. And one of the benefits, once we met Dan, is, he's got business training as well as the legal training. So he understands all the business aspects, instead of having to have a separate person you're speaking to go over the valuation piece, and then a separate guy that does the legal piece. I mean, he understands all that, and it was a great fit.
We're used to making common sense decisions based on the information we have, and understanding the risks involved. And Dan seemed to have a good handle on, again, a common sense approach. The way he talked, he's a common sense guy. He understands small businesses. He talked about handling us personally and not handing us off to a junior partner. He's a lean thinker. So, you apply a little process thinking to the legal business. For example, we didn't do any legal work. We didn't have to until it was time to do it. Dan has been a wonderful human being to get in contact with. He's a good person.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in using attorneys unless you need to. But for this, you definitely have to have somebody who knows what he's doing. And I think I told you the way I would describe it is, because of his business background, his common sense background, he's a lean thinker. So he listens to what we want to do, and he translates that into legalese. It goes back to the buyer. And then the buyer's attorneys, like in this case, they have awful attorneys who were hung up on where stuff was in the document and how things were phrased, and it is that therefore shall be kind of extra words in there. And he would take that and just protect us. If they want to put in extra words, that's fine, but he just protected us from what they would try to slip in during the legal part of negotiations, and that happened. So he hears what we want, translates that into legalese, and then protects us on the way back, and does it in a very cost-effective manner. And he's a fun guy to work with.
He's a great quarterback to lead you through this process, because most business owners like us haven't been through that process, right? If they've been through it, they probably already have somebody. So most of them are going to be people that have spent their, a good chunk of their life just trying to grow their business and get it to the point where, they have something valuable they can sell. And they're not going to know much about that process, probably less than we knew about it, right? So you want somebody that's been through the process a number of times, has been through various situations, right? So they have a broad set of experience in terms of what types of situations may arise during that type of transaction, and has the, both the business acumen and the legal acumen to be able to do it for you. And so it's really cost effective, efficient, relatively quick, and he's going to protect you, which is what you want. He's going to get your best interests covered, and he is going to get you a good deal, right? Now, you're going to have some say in how far you want to press it, how you want to, which direction you want to go. And we worked with Dan and, went down and talked to some M&A folks if that was going to be a potential avenue to take. we decided against it. I think it turned out great for us. I think we liked the people we're working with. And Dan was a good sounding board along the way. He challenged us whether we should, especially, with our initial offer, he thought it was low relative to what we should be able to get in this market. And, I look at the money spent, I told Dan, it's the best money we ever spent. In terms of dollars we spent for what we got in return.
Yeah, I tell you, there was a couple of times when the attorney, in the disclosure statement, I spent a lot of time on the disclosure statement. Every possible thing that I know, it's like selling a house, right? Everything that's gone on, from the personnel to the equipment to the building, and their attorneys struck the entire section out of the APA when they returned it. Dan, I left a message, goes, you got to talk to me about that. Dan was angry that he was going to have to spend a lot of extra time because he really spends his time and our money like it's his. And that's a philosophy that we have throughout our organization here. Hey, if you're going to spend money, spend it like it's yours. And if you have responsible people, that's a great risk. So keep it right in that way. And I want they were just wasting their client. I mean, I'm going to recommend to the owners, because when I'm working for them, that they fire that group, because they're wasting their money and they're not representing their interests, which what Dan does. I would recommend them to friends and executives that I know and respect, and that would respect my reference. I'd recommend him to an associate unconditionally.
Right.
Unconditionally.